Hey friends, well, welcome back. So today we're going to take a look at these Phillips HUE strip lights. So this is the new version of Phillips HUE lights. My friend wanted to put these behind his TV and he asked, hey, can you solder these? Because apparently they make these little accessory things where you can cut the light along the line and you can put them in this sort of clampy thing here. You can put them in this sort of clampy thing right here, and it will allow you to make all kinds of bends and stuff with these. But apparently they don't work. So this is a Home Depot part. I guess these things don't work. It's called Litcessory. Not really sure. So anyway, I'll show you why this doesn't work here in a second. Okay, so looking at this little adapter here, they basically have these little fins that come down here, right where my tweezers are. And what you do is you take your light, which has just this end here, just like this, that's cut off, and then you just stick this guy in here like this. And it mates up with all of the contacts on the light strip, and then you just close this little guy down like that, and it's supposed to catch it in there. Well, the problem is, it comes right out, which is not good. So LED lights, interestingly enough, when you're looking at least strips, they generally will give you essentially what the pinout is right here. So you have 12 volts DC, which is your power leg right here. Blue, red, green, and then WW and CW. I don't know what that is. Generally on the cheaper ones from Home Depot, like I use those all the time. It's your color blends, the power, and then that's it. There's only 4. So I do crazy stuff like solder 4-pin XLRs and stuff like that to it. But this one has a WW and a CW, which probably is just some type of control protocol. But anyway, what my friend asked me to do was just basically solder the strips together for him. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do. So we'll check that out. All right, so as far as prep goes, all I'm going to do is just spray a little contact cleaner on here. Just because I figured this has probably been rolling around someone's house, and I've been touching it. So just give it a little clean right there. A couple of blasts of spray air. Ooh. My little stem fell off there. That was pretty cool. I don't know that I could do that again if I tried. So once that's prepped, all you want to do is grab yourself a little flux. And I just have a little, I've been using this same sort of coffee stirrer thing for a long time. So all you want to do is just grab some flux and just put it on each one of these little copper contacts right here. So I am using electrical grade solder with a rosin core. It's pretty big. This is a little bit bigger than I normally like to use. What I'm going to do is just very, very gently, because you don't need a lot, just very gently put this on these contacts here. All right, so it was a pretty sloppy soldering job as far as me heating up that flux, but as you can see, it's all right. Kind of had this strip running downhill so that I can keep it on camera and keep it relatively in focus. So once I wipe the flux off, it's actually all right. But you do want to be mindful of your heat. So just in case if you were wondering what my settings are, I've got a Weller soldering iron. We're at 600 degrees for this. So when I was talking to my friend the other night, I was thinking that I'm just going to grab some stock wire, but I thought, why do that? He gave me his little crimpy guys that don't work. So I'm just going to cut this off, and we're going to use that to connect the pieces. So now that our wires are cut, let's see how thick these guys are. Ooh, these are really thin. This is about a 26 gauge wire, so I'm using my super thin wire strippers here. Generally, I like to use a catapult, but the catapult only goes down to 18 gauge wire, so we got to use this guy. So I am just going to prep this by snipping off the ends of each wire here. Oh, and I should mention, when you do this, when you're using really thin wires like this, if you wrap it around your finger like this, it makes it a lot easier, because sometimes on the thin stuff, you can end up pulling the insulation off the side of the wire. So some of the strands of wire came out a little bit. I'm just going to trim this down and make sure that there aren't any extraneous wire strands here. Okay, so I put the wires in my little alligator clip here, and here's what I'm going to do. I just want to tin the ends of these because it's going to make it a lot easier to solder, so I can only do 2 of them at a time, so we'll get that done. All right, so now that we've got our wires prepped, all we have to do is now solder them on. So because we've tinned our LED strip and we've tinned our wires, this will just go right on. So go like this. All right, so once these are soldered on, we're going to grab the other piece. All right, so prep for this one just goes like the other one. We're going to spray a little contact cleaner. A little wipe. Spray that off with a little spray air. Bit of flux. Okay. I'm going to try to do this one a little flatter here so the solder doesn't run off. Don't judge me for soldering on camera. So again, it looks a little burned, but it's okay. That's just some junk on my soldering tip here. So the cool thing is, when you look at this, if you just run a bead of solder across all of them, because the only part that's metal are the little copper contacts, it will populate all of these little contact tabs without too much of a problem. So what I do want to say here is, when you're matching these up, you want to do this just like this. So we're going to just get our helping hands in here and match these up so that they sort of match. I mean, having a good set of helping hands for this is going to be pretty paramount. Okay, and then again, since the tips are already pre-tinned, we can just tack them on. So again, the most important thing in this step is you want to make sure that you're not cross soldering these. So CW goes to CW, so I have this lined up just so that that's like that. So we'll solder it up. All right, so let's put power to this thing and see if it works. Now, before we actually do apply power to this, I want to point out, Kyle, my friend who was working on this, actually did strip back this clear plastic or this rubberized coating that's on these lights. To do that, all you need is just a little utility knife. So if you take the light just like this, and take a utility knife and just very gently rock it and peel this back, this will come off. Just be careful, because this is where you can really cut yourself. So before we apply power to this, these contacts are now live. So I want to make sure that I have these so that they can't accidentally come into contact with anything when we're doing this test cycle. So we'll take the little protective pins off here, just like this, making sure that you are matching up the little plus arrow on this guy to the power plug. All right, and both of them work. So I don't know how these things work if you... Oh, cool, and they do change colors just by pressing the little button here. So now that we know our proof of concept works, the next part is going to be making sure that this connection is nice and sealed. So the magic product to make this really work well is using what's called liquid electrical tape. Now this is actually available at any hardware store. It's by the standard electrical tape. It's usually on an end cap. At Home Depot, they're usually on an end cap, but this is the stuff that you're going to need for this. So all we do is, well, I should say before we apply this, this is why you need this. One, all of these connections are now live. It's only 12 volt DC, which won't really hurt you, but as you're moving this around, the light, as if you're looking at my fingers like contacts, if you're moving them around, they can go like that, and that's what you want to avoid. So the liquid electrical tape is a way to get those connections nice and sealed in. So while this is drying, because we do need to put 2 coats of that electrical tape, I'm just going to start getting the other one ready. So I have this one prepped. So you can already tell this is my 3rd one. My soldering technique is getting a lot better. Hopefully if you're doing this at home, you will enjoy the same luxury. So I tinned and prepped these. I figured if you saw me do it once, you don't need to see me do it again. So while we're doing this next batch, I think it's worth noting here that these now don't line up like they used to. So right here, this is 12 volt DC, and then this is CW. So 12 volt DC on this one, excuse me, I'm gonna do this so I'm not blocking the camera, is over here. So essentially these are gonna have to cross patch. So when you're doing this, you have to make sure, be extra careful that you are going 1-to-1. So 12 volt DC has to solder to 12 volt DC, and vice versa, and vice versa, or you won't get the result that you would like. So I'm gonna try this with, we'll call this ugly soldering here, and just put a big thing of flux on there. Let's see what happens. So when you're soldering these, it's very important that these connections don't bridge. So if you have too much solder on there, the contacts will touch, and that won't be good. So again, I'm doing this a little bit sloppy because I'm trying to get this on camera, which is not cooperating very well, but if you're doing this in your home or your shop, just make sure that you're paying attention, and this will be a lot easier on a flat surface. Oh, and the other thing, if you're doing any soldering job, a good pair of tweezers are a lifesaver. Okay, so we're all cleaned up here. So what I do want to do is put power to this again, just to make sure that all of our solder connections are good. I would recommend that you do the same. It's certainly a lot easier to suss out problems right now before the liquid electrical tape is applied. So let's see if this works. And it does. Okay. All right, so this is day 2. This is 2 coats of our liquid electrical tape, and we're going to finish this off because, you know, obviously I'm sure you're looking at this and saying it's a bit ugly. I'm going to run 2 pieces of heat shrink over each piece. So all I'm going to do is take my heat gun and shrink this down.